today, the topic for today's presentation is about fall prevention. So it is our honor to have our guest speaker, Meanusha, the registered nurse from Scarborough Centre for Healthy Community. So we will come back to her after we introduce the three hosting organizations. So next, I would like to reiterate the housekeeping rules for today's session. So this session will be recorded. So if you don't want your name to be shown, you can just turn your camera off. So we won't see your face. We would like you to be muted during the presentation. And if you have any questions, you can write down your questions in the chat room, or you can just take a note. By the end of the presentation, we'll have a Q&A session. And you can keep your notes for any comments, questions during the presentation. So when we are in the Q&A session, you can raise your hand for comments or question. You can unmute yourself when your name is called. Okay. So we will take the questions. We'll get the chat room first. Then we'll give it to the room to see whoever shows up the hand. Then we can call that name. Then that's their turn to ask a question. Again, if you don't want to show your face in the video, so please, you can just, keep your camera off. Okay. So next, we're going to introduce the hosting organizations. The first, we're going to have Marianne from Momiji Healthcare Society. Marianne, let's have you.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Marianelle, and I am a program worker at the Client Intervention Department at Momiji. So we are a nonprofit supportive housing in Scarborough, and we serve both seniors and caregivers in English and Japanese. We have in-person and virtual programming. And we have this program, which we call Seniors IT and Beyond. It's an online and in-person IT support for seniors in both languages. If you want to book a session, just call us. It's every Tuesday and Friday. And we also have this monthly fundraising Toriichi Bento for $15. If you order by January 19th, you can pick up your bento box for on the 24th of January. Thank you.
Thank you, Mariana. Next, we're going to introduce Japanese social services. Rumiko, let's have you.
Thank you, Angela. So my name is Rumiko from Japanese Social Services. So Japanese Social Services is a non-profit agency that provides counseling and programs in both English and Japanese. So you can reach us by phone or email, as you can see on the screen. And we also offer a variety of programs for seniors, available online or hybrid. And so we have a craft club next week on Wednesday and a singing club on 22nd of January. And our senior yoga program start next week on Monday. So you can join at any time during this term. So if anyone interested in, please visit our website for more information. Thank you.
Thank you, Miko. Now, next, I'm going to introduce Yee Hong Centre for Geriatric Care. So my name is Angela. I'm the social worker from Yee Hong Centre for Geriatric Care. So Yee Hong is a nonprofit organization. We provide community support services. And also we have long-term care facilities. We provide culturally and linguistically services to Chinese, South Asian, and other minority groups. So if you would like to know more details about our services, you can call the number on the screen. That's 416-412-4570, or you can visit our website. So we do have our community and the professional services in the community. So we provide home support services, assisted living services, adult day programs in the community. So if you would like to know more information about our community and professional services, you can go to the website on the screen. So for more details. Okay, so next, going to pass our time to our guest speaker, Meanusha from Scarborough Community Healthy Community. Let's have you.
So hi everyone, my name is Meanusha. I am a registered nurse with the Scarborough Centre for Healthy Communities. I know it's a long name, but we can call it SCHC for short. We are also a nonprofit organization, and basically we do everything we can to support the community. We do offer support for all ages, so children, youth, adults, as well as seniors. And we have over 40 different programs and services for the community. So it's a little bit about us. So today's topic is falls prevention. We are going to go through a few different things as part of fall prevention. If you do have any questions, again, you can put them in the chat feature, or you can hold on to them to wait for the Q&A period as well. So we're going to go through a little quick introduction over falls. We'll also be talking about what contributes to falls and why. And then we're going to be tying in a little bit of osteoporosis as well and how that really links to falls. And then kind of the base or the foundation of today's presentations is the prevention part of it, falls. So we'll talk about how you can prevent falls. And at the same time, if you do fall, what are some of the steps that you can take? So a quick introduction to falls. This is an image from the Fall Prevention Committee. So basically, as we age, our bodies do change, and sometimes these changes can affect the way that we are. There's muscle weakness, there's unsteadiness, and those can lead to falls. And the thing with falls is that besides just being kind of inconvenient, it can cause some detrimental effects to your health and to your well-being. And so that's why today's focus is to kind of figure out ways we can prevent those, because those would be beneficial to our health. So I do have a little bit of statistics here for us over here. So according to the WHO, or the World Health Organization, about 1/3 of older adults fall each year. And I know it seems like a kind of a small number, but that is a pretty great population if you actually do the math and like the total population. And specifically in Canada, falls are actually the leading cause of injury-related hospitalizations and injury deaths among people who are age 65 or older. So kind of that target age range and target population. Falls not only cause injury, but they can cause hospitalizations and worsening injury when you arrive to the hospital. So that's why it's kind of very important to talk about how we can prevent falls. And I would like to commend all of you here today, because the first step to do that is to attend sessions like these, where we can really educate ourselves and become more aware of how we can prevent those. So the first part of today's presentation is really going to talk about what can cause or what can contribute to falls, because we know they happen, but we want to know more about what can happen so we can kind of prepare ourselves ahead of time. And please feel free to stop me if you can't hear me that well. I can't see the screen, so I'm not sure. I think we're okay though. So the first one being poor balance, which can cause unsteadiness in your feet. So, with muscle weakness, that can cause kind of unsteadiness in the feet where you don't have enough balance. And that's ultimately what can lead to you losing your balance and having a fall. And as we talked about, there is weakness or decreased muscle or bone strength. So as we age, we do lose a bit of that muscle, and we have more increased fat deposits. So we lose, because we lose the muscle, it does become weaker. And also, as we get older, if we're not as active, those muscles aren't being used enough, so they become weaker that way as well. And decreased bone strength is expected with age as well. The other thing that can contribute to falls is feeling dizzy or lightheaded, because at that point you really aren't able to control what's around you, and those feelings of dizziness or lightheadedness can happen for a number of reasons. It can be due to like medications that you're taking. It can be due to maybe you're diabetic and maybe your blood sugar is a little bit low. It can be due to something called postural hypotension. So that's when you are from a sitting to standing position, and when you are about to stand up, you feel a little bit dizzy or a little bit queasy just because of the change in position. And it does cause a little bit of a drop in your blood pressure. That's why you feel dizzy. Also, changes in vision or hearing problems. So as you age, there are changes in the depth of your vision, as well as certain more like physiological things that happen with your eyes and your vision that can affect how you see things. So for example, sometimes bright lights or bright things can affect your vision. Sometimes you can't see things as clearly, as well as hearing problems. So if you're not hearing someone trying to warn you, that can contribute to falls as well. And as we touched on, some side effects of certain medications, specifically if you're taking medications for, again, like any sleeping medication, any like antipsychotic or antidepressant medications, and some of your medications for like things like hypertension or diabetes can also have side effects that can cause you to feel dizzy, lightheaded, which essentially cause you to have a fall. All right. So we talked about what can contribute to falls, but how do we really know if someone is at risk for falls? Because knowing if someone is at risk for falls means that you can take those precautions ahead of time. So we do have an activity. I know it's a little bit difficult in the virtual world, but I hope that you can participate as much as possible. So we have our friend Roshan here. He's our friend here at the Momiji Healthcare Society. And he is a very chill guy. He likes to say things like take a chill pill. And are you ready for the activity? You can unmute yourself so I know that you're here, you're ready.
Ready?
Ready, perfect. Okay, so Roshan wants us to stay chill. So Roshan is a 70-year-old male who lives by Markham Road and Lawrence Avenue. He has had a total knee replacement, which happened 4 weeks ago at the Scarborough Health Network Hospital, or the SHN Hospital. Sometimes Roshan feels unsteady when he's walking, and he worries that he might fall. Roshan has also been told by his doctors to use a cane to get around safely. And Roshan complains that sometimes he feels lightheaded or dizzy when he gets up from a sitting position. He also thinks that this may be because of some of his prescribed medications that he's taking for pain. So I'll leave this on here for a minute if we want to review. Okay. So do we think that Roshan is at risk for falls? You can either unmute yourselves or enter in the chat.
He's ready to fall.
He's ready to fall?
Yes.
Chat here. Yes. And why do we think that?
Probably dizziness is number one for me.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I will give you the answer, although you are right. The answer is yes. So Roshan is at risk for falls according to, so the activity that we did is actually according to a risk assessment. So yes, we know he's at risk for falls, but there's actual kind of guidelines to follow when you're thinking about who might be at risk. And it is called the Finding Balance Falls Risk Assessment. There is a link here, so if you want at the end of the presentation, I can share with you. But we can kind of go through some of the questions in the assessment. So the case scenario doesn't have all of the aspects of this questionnaire, so we're going to kind of go through the questions that are relevant. So for example, has he fallen in the last 6 months? We don't really know. The second question, do you use or have you been advised to use a cane or a walker to get around safely? And in that case, yes, Roshan was advised to do so. Do you sometimes feel unsteady when you're walking? He did say that he was feeling unsteady. Do you have to steady yourself by holding onto furniture when walking at home? So this wasn't in the case scenario, so we are going to skip that one. Oh, I went too far ahead. Do you worry about falling? So Roshan did say that he was worried about falling, so that would count as yes. Do you need to push yourself up with your hands to stand up from a chair? So again, we haven't mentioned that in the case scenario. We're going to skip that one. Do you have trouble stepping onto a curb? We're going to skip that one as well. Do you often have to rush to the toilet? So that wasn't mentioned, but we're going to skip that one. Have you lost any feeling in your feet? And then do you take medication to help you sleep or improve your mood? And do you take medication that sometimes make you feel lightheaded or more tired than usual? So he did mention he was taking some pain medications. So we have, out of the questionnaire, we have 4 yeses. And oops, I went too far ahead. So according to the questionnaire that you fill out online, this would equal to 5 points, and that means that you are at risk for falls. And it's 5 points because one of the questions are 2 points. Everything else is 1 point each. Okay, so now we are going to move on to osteoporosis. It is a huge word. Anyone here know what osteoporosis is or has some kind of awareness? I'm going to take silence as no, we don't. So it's good that you're here today. So I'll briefly kind of touch on what osteoporosis is and then talk about the relationship between osteoporosis and falls. So osteoporosis is a health condition, and when you have osteoporosis, there is a loss of bone density. So a person who does have osteoporosis does have an increased risk of breaking a bone easily. So breaking a bone or fracturing it easily. And unfortunately, osteoporosis is very common among individuals who are 50 years of age or older, and women are really at increased risk for developing osteoporosis. And that has a lot to do with just the way that we are structurally designed, as well as hormones and menopause. So osteoporosis is basically low bone density, if you can remember that. And this information was gathered by Osteoporosis Canada, as well as the Government of Canada website. So now here's an image. You can kind of see in a very different way that there is a person, and you can see their hip bone, basically. So there's 2 images that represents both a healthy bone and someone who would have osteoporosis. So if you notice in the part over here where it says healthy bone, you see a lot of more of those holes, those spaces with a lot of more white parts to it. And those are really fibrous tissue, as well as bone density. So because they're thicker, they're more dense. And now here with osteoporosis, you see that the holes are larger and there's less things really keeping it together, less of that brown or tan area. So you can tell that there's a loss of density there. And that's why this is concerning, because if you are someone who has osteoporosis or at risk of having osteoporosis, you have an increased chance of breaking a bone or fracturing a bone. And now you might wonder, really, how does this relate to falls? And I can explain how. So individuals who do have osteoporosis are most likely to fracture certain areas in their body. So the common ones are their hips, so the hip bone, the spine, which is kind of in the back area, and the wrist. And when you do have a fall, especially if it is a significant fall, you generally tend to land on these areas. So if you're falling, kind of on your back, you are going to affect your spine most likely in some way. If you are falling and you land on your hand or your wrist, there's a chance that you can injure your wrist, as well as the hip. And this has a lot to do, again, with the way that you land when you're falling. And so for someone who is either who has osteoporosis or is at risk for osteoporosis, it's very important that you take extra precautions for falls prevention, because if you do have a fall, you are more likely to injure yourself or break a bone. So your risk for injury is a lot larger than someone who doesn't have osteoporosis, because you're already prone to having those fractures. And the thing with osteoporosis is it's almost called the silent killer, because sometimes you really don't know, there really isn't any symptoms to this condition, and you won't really know that you have it unless you do further testing and further scans. Sometimes there's people that, you know, have falls often, have fractures often, and that can cause you to question, you know, why is this happening? And at that time, you know, your doctors or your healthcare professionals, they may do further testing to find out that you may have osteoporosis. So it's not something that is diagnosed or really caught early on, because there really isn't any symptoms. But again, if you do have the chance to know that you are at risk or you have the condition, it's important for you to take falls prevention measures very seriously. I hope that makes sense. We are going to move on to what you can do for falls prevention, which is kind of the base and the foundation of today's presentation. And we're really going to focus on 4 key areas. So the first one being mobility and physical activity. The second one has a lot to do with feet and footwear. And as you can guess, the third one has to do with nutrition and specifically bone health. And home safety. And I guess safety in general. Okay. So we'll start with mobility and physical activity first. All right. So some tips that you can take into consideration when you are thinking about how you can prevent falls is really strengthening those muscles that we already mentioned are weaker. So for example, doing physical activity, things like aerobic activities. Oh, is there a question? I heard a noise, or we're good? I think we're okay. Okay, yeah, so things like aerobic activity, muscle strengthening activities, or balance activities are really helpful to really get those key muscles and key areas stronger. Including that in your regular routine is also very helpful. And actually, you know, as per the guidelines, older adults are supposed to be getting about 30 minutes of physical activity per day, which equals to about 150 minutes in a week. And as well as that, they do recommend that you have or you take part in kind of the strengthening activities or balance activities 2 to 3 times a week with resistance. So including that as part of your routine is very helpful. And these things, I know it sounds difficult sometimes, but things as simple as walking is very helpful. Swimming, I guess you can't really swim in the winter, but if you have a pool in your apartment or where you live, you can do some of that. And also some aerobic exercise classes. I know they are offered at some of the organizations that we talked about earlier. And as well as things like yoga could be helpful as well. And another tip that I want to mention is we talked about sometimes getting that drop in blood pressure when you're getting up from a seated position to a standing position. The things we can do is really take in that extra time when you are getting up from a seated to standing position, just to give yourself time to like take a deep breath and to make sure that you're feeling okay before you decide to stand up. And so as mentioned, there are lots of different programs and services offered to seniors for exercise and fitness across Ontario. I know some of the organizations here do have programs. We also have some programs offered at SCHC, which I just want to talk about briefly. So for example, we have things called sit yoga, which is a very gentle form of yoga that can be done while sitting, especially for seniors who have conditions like arthritis, where you can't really put too much pressure or move around too much. We also have things called gentle fitness. So these are using like the low impact body workouts using resistance bands. And again, it is meant for seniors, so it's nothing that's going to be high impact for your body that can cause injury, as well as balance and resistance. So this focuses really on muscle training and improving the balance. So just some more information. If you are interested, again, you can talk to me after the presentation. But at SCHC, we do have an active living center. This is located at 3600 Kingston Road. So we have things like active yoga, sit yoga, as well as gentle fitness. There are ways that you can register. Again, we can talk about that later at the end of the presentation. We also have a yoga session that occurs at the hub location with SCHC, which is right off of Brimley and Eglinton. And that happens every Saturday. I believe it is at 10 o'clock in the morning, and it is $5 per class. If you're interested, again, you can talk to me afterwards. The second aspect of really falls prevention has a lot to do with feet and footwear. So I know it's something that we don't really think about often, but wearing footwear that doesn't fit properly, or maybe the footwear is damaged, can actually increase your risk for a fall, because those are things that can really help with your stability. And sometimes I know it may look okay, but it may not provide the same support or good amount of support that you'd need. So making sure that you're wearing good shoes, especially now that you are getting older, wearing shoes, walking shoes or running shoes for daily activities is very helpful, just because they have more of the support. Making sure the shoes are firm and supportive, and taking care of your feet. So if you notice that you have, ingrown toenails or any other foot problems, making sure that you're getting those checked out, because they can also contribute to falls as well. So nutrition and bone health. So we do know that healthy eating and good nutrition is very important, but I do want to take a little bit of time to focus on bone health and what really is important for those. So we do need two really important nutrients, so calcium and vitamin D, which are very good for bone health. And you can find those in the foods that you eat. So for example, for calcium, you can find them, or vitamin D, you can find them in milk, cheese, yogurt, salmon, or green leafy vegetables. However, sometimes we notice that those dietary foods may not provide as much as you would need. So as per the Canada's Food Guide, it is recommended that everyone over the age of 50 should be taking a daily supplement of about 4,000 IU, which stands for international units of vitamin D. And again, these needs would be increased, especially if you are someone who does have osteoporosis. And at that point, it is recommended that you receive about 800 to 2,000 international units daily. Again, these are just recommendations that are provided through the Canada's Food Guide, but it's always best to talk to your family practitioner, whether it's a doctor or nurse practitioner, for more information on dosage. There we go. Yeah, so always check with your doctor before taking any kind of supplements. And lastly, we're going to be talking a bit about home safety. So this image right here has kind of all areas of home safety, not just for falls prevention, but I do think they play a huge role in doing so. So for example, things like adding extra lighting around for extra security, but also so that you can see where you're walking and what you're walking around. Also, what's really helpful, sorry, I'm going to just mute these messages. Installing grab rails, especially in the bathroom near the shower or the toilet area, just so that in case you need some support holding on to things, you have that. Again, so the home safety thing, not so much falls prevention, but things like smoke detectors and fire extinguishers if you need it. Keeping things that you use often within close reach. So this has more to do with if you do fall, if there is an injury, that you can reach those items and you kind of know where it is. Cleaning spills and leaks to prevent falls. So not really waiting or forgetting about it, trying to clean them as soon as possible so that there are no accidents. As well as checking or arranging for daily safety checks from your families, neighbors, or family. This again is a safety tip, but also a fall safety tip, just because if something does go wrong, you have that chance to speak with someone, as well as knowing that they'll call you if you don't pick up. They kind of know something's going on or something's going wrong. We talked about footwear, so wearing shoes that are supportive and firm. Again, with the lighting, making sure that your home is well lit. So sometimes there are like these night lights you can use, especially at nighttime, that you can have kind of all around your house if you need to, just so that you make sure that you can see where you're walking, where you're heading. Keeping any kind of, either on your phone or on like a document, emergency numbers nearby. And clearing clutter in heavy traffic areas. So maybe things like the walkway or kind of when you enter your home, making sure it's a clear pathway so that there is less chance for you to have a fall. There we go. And at the end of the presentation, we will be sharing a few documents that kind of go through some more tips, especially for like certain living rooms, kitchen, stairs, bathroom. And this sheet is one of them. So I won't go through all of them, but I think that this will be really helpful for you to have in your home, just, either clipped on to your wall or your fridge, just in case you want more information. And so kind of things that we talked about, reducing that clutter, having clear walkways and entryways, having good lighting. So that can be even things like installing night lights to make sure that you can see at nighttime. Because sometimes I know it might be a lot to turn on a light when you're waking up from the middle of the night, just because you might, wake up and you wanna stay in that sleepy mode. So having night lights is very helpful because they really are only turn on in the nighttime. Ensuring that you're using non-slip either mats, so you can use like in the entryway you can have non-slip mats, or like in the bathroom you can have non-slip mats when you come out, because that is kind of a high risk area too, because you'd be walking out from an area with water, there's more chances of falling. And then things like kitchen area, so again, wiping up any spills or any leaks so that you prevent yourself from falling or tripping. Another important tip, which I also have been trying to incorporate, is keeping those heavy items in lower areas, not higher areas. So sometimes you might have cupboards like you can reach. And it might be helpful to keep it in areas that are lower, because maybe when you're trying to reach for that, the item can fall, you can trip, and that can cause falls as well. The other big area for falls is on the staircase or stairs if you have them in your hall. So making sure that you have really solid handrails on both sides of the stairway, making sure that you have glasses, especially if you need them, and taking your time because you don't want to rush and for it to cause an injury. So yeah, there are a couple of tips here that we can share afterwards. And if there's anything that you take away from today, and if you want a quick summary, here it is for you. So things like taking your time, so not rushing when you're walking or when you're getting up, keeping your stairs, keeping your walkways free of clutter, especially now in the winter, if we're having ice or snow, ensuring that those things are cleared or you have some kind of support person to clear them for you. Using handrails and grab bars, so especially in the bathroom or in the shower. We talked about balancing your body with good nutrition, hydration, and exercises. Vision is also a key one that you should take into consideration. So getting your vision and eyesight checked regularly, so every 2 years or every year if you're diabetic, to ensure that you use those glasses if you need them. And also knowing what medications you're taking, just in general for your general health, but also knowing if certain medications can cause you to feel dizzy or drowsy, and ensuring that you're not driving, you're not doing any heavy impact activity at that time. Putting your best foot forward in well-fitting and sturdy shoes. Lights, so lights everywhere in your hallways, stairs, and walkways. Checking your home for slipping or fall hazards, and ask for help if you are worried about falling. And as mentioned, I think a first step for falls prevention is attending this session today, so you can increase your knowledge and awareness. So thank you all for being here. And now kind of the last part is, okay, so we've taken all these measures, we've taken all the knowledge, taken all the prevention strategies that we've learned, but you still do fall, and kind of what to do if you do fall. So if you do have a fall, you want to make sure that you catch your breath first and to check to see if you are injured. That's very important because that really determines what you should be doing next. And keep calm. I know this is a difficult one to do sometimes, especially because you are kind of in a sense of panic, shock, with a lot of emotions going on, but trying to regulate yourself and calm down if possible. And in the situation where you can get up, so if you can get up, it means that you are not injured. So after you've caught your breath, you want to check to see if, certain areas are painful, certain areas are almost limiting and you can't move the area. If that's the case, you do not want to follow this. We're going to talk about what to do if that is the case later on. But if you can move and you think you can get up, these are the steps that you should be following. So first up, given that you have fallen down, you want to lie on your side. And the instructions is to bend the leg on top and lift yourself using your elbows or your hands. And that would be kind of a way to help pull yourself up. And then you want to pull yourself towards a sturdy object. So most often, in the living room, you might have a chair, you might have a sofa that's sturdy, and you want to use both of your hands to pull yourself up. And as you attempt to stand up or as you attempt to get up, you do want to use your stronger leg in the front because that will give you more of that strength and stability. And you want to make sure that you're still holding on to the sturdy objects, so the chair, for example. You don't want to let go because you might lose your balance at that point. And if you can, you want to try to safely stand up and carefully turn around and sit down. So there is a video that I would like to share that just kind of talks about some strategies on how you can do that. Now let's go back here.
The 3 best ways to get up.
Did we hear that okay?
Yes.
Yep. Yes.
Okay.
Off the ground after you've had a fall. Hi, my name is Doug. I've been a physical therapist for 30 years and I specialize in helping people improve their balance and reduce their chance of falling. Having a fall can be very scary. So many of my clients come to me because they've had a fall. Most of the time when someone has a fall, there's someone nearby to help us get up off the ground, or we might have a cell phone or a call button or some way of getting help. But the truth is, many people fall without anyone around to help them. Now I know it seems in this day and age that everyone has a cell phone with them all the time, but it's been my experience that a lot of people have falls without their cell phone, without their wristwatch, without some way of communicating and getting help. So this video will show you the 3 best ways to get up off the ground if you've had a fall. The first method is called the chair method. To do the chair method, you need something like a chair nearby. It can be a chair, a stool, an ottoman, any type of furniture or anything that you can sit on top of. What you want to do after you had a fall, the first step is to get onto your side. Once you roll onto your side, what you're going to try to do is to get onto your hands and knees. So this is in the hands and knees position with your hands down and your knees in contact with the ground. Because the next step is to crawl to that chair. You want to crawl on your hands and knees until you get close to the chair, and then you want to bring your hands onto the seat of the chair. The next step is to use the seat of the chair to bring one of your legs flat on the ground. So now you're in a kneeling, half kneeling position with one foot on the ground. Now the next step is to get off the ground. To do that, you want to push down on the chair and push on the foot that's on the ground and bring your other leg and your bottom up off the ground. Once you're in this position with your hands still on the chair, you want to pivot and then sit down on the chair. It's very important not to try to stand all the way up after you've had a fall. Many people injure themselves further by trying to do that. The safest thing is to sit on the chair for a few minutes until you feel comfortable and able to stand up and then get help. It's called the scoot method. I've even seen it called the MacGyver method. Now, to do this, you're gonna have to find something around you that you can build into a little staircase. Now, in my example, I'm using these balance mat cushions, but you could easily use couch cushions, pillows, boxes. You can put as many things together as you can, but what you're trying to do is build a little staircase with 2, 3, or 4 steps. And what you're going to do is, once you've built that, so you're on your side, and you may have to scoot a little bit on your side, so you don't have to go onto your knees to do this. Once you've built the little staircase, what you want to do is try to sit on that lowest step. And then with both hands on the next highest step, you want to pull yourself backwards onto that step, then pull yourself backwards onto the next step. If you can build your staircase so it aims at a ottoman or a chair, that would be the ideal, because then you could be up onto the chair and then rest a little bit until you're strong enough to stand up. But if you can, just getting up off the ground, even as little as 10 or 15 inches off the ground, can allow you to recover enough and get up more easily. Now, the first thing you want to do when you've had a fall is try to roll onto your side. It's very important that you get onto your side, because that's the easiest way to get up onto your knees. So once you're on your side, you want to try to roll so that you're on your hands and knees. Once you're on your hands and knees, and this is probably the hardest part, you have to bring one leg forward and put your foot flat on the ground. So you're going to now be in a kneeling position. You want to keep your hands on your knee that you're kneeling on. You want to get your head up and your body up. Now, the next step is to push down on the leg that's flat on the ground and try to bring your whole body up off the ground. This is very difficult, and a lot of times people find that they lose their balance when they do it. So you're pushing down and then bringing your body up off the ground. You have to brace yourself against your body with your hands to try to steady yourself. Now that I've showed you the 3 best ways to get up off the ground, I want to talk a little bit more about how this can help you or not. Now, for a lot of people,
Okay. So I hope that video was helpful. Oh, I'm at the beginning again. I wonder if I can go back. There we go. So we went over this one already, and I hope the video helped clarify some other ways that you could try to get up. And the next thing I want to talk about is, again, situation where you are injured. So if you are injured, you really don't want to be moving any of your limbs, because you don't want to worsen that injury. And the important thing to keep in mind is that you will be okay. Some good positive affirmation is helpful, and help is on the way. So in a situation where you are injured and you are unable to get up, you want to try your best to call out for help if you can be heard. So if you can yell, if you can scream, best way. If that's not helpful, if you have any kind of object, so a cane, anything that you can bang either on the table, on the wall, just so there's noise, because people will usually react to any kind of loud noises that's heard, that will be helpful as well. If possible, if you are able to slide yourself up to a nearby phone, you can call 911 and stay on the line. And you want to stay on the line just so that they can make sure that you are okay during the entire time until help is on the way. And at this point, it really is a waiting game. So you are going to have to wait for help until they arrive. Sometimes in states of shock, you might be feeling a little bit cold, so you can use any kind of blanket or clothing to keep yourself warm. At the same time, if possible, if you can gently move some of your limbs, just because it can help with circulation and prevent that stiffness, because again, you are in that state of shock, and you do want to get blood flowing to the rest of your body. And I hope that was helpful. So really the key takeaway from today is that anyone can fall, but as we age, our risk for falling does become greater. And the good news is that falls can be prevented. So thank you everyone for listening in on the presentation today. I will leave my contact information as well, but I think we can take some questions now.